the step back, you mentioned something in there and we kind of blew by it, but you talked about at the age of 3. At the age of 3, tell me what happened to you.
Oh, so I was born in London. So at the age of 3, we came to the United States. By then, my grandparents were here. And so my dad came into, when he came to the States, we all came to the States. His first job was with ABC, the TV company, as a COBOL programmer. And so on the weekends, he would actually take me in and, prop me up on, while he was doing his work, he'd prop me up on one of his green screen terminals, and they had a light pen. I don't know if you remember light pens, but it was kind of
no, I don't.
Other than the keyboard, it was like, there was no mice. This was the early, you would actually like poke at the screen and the light would read the screen and kind of identify where you were. And so I would play games with that little thing. So that's kind of how, that was my first, so I was exposed really early to this kind of stuff.
Yeah. So you said at the age of 3, from London to the U.S., was it the job that brought your family to the U.S.? What was the push there?
Yeah. So where my parents were, my parents were both born in Lebanon. We're Armenian, through various migrations, through world events, Armenian genocide. My parents were ended up born in Beirut. There's a large Armenian population in Beirut. In the 70s, Beirut became kind of a problem area. There were a lot of issues, and it wasn't great for Christians to be there at the time. And so at that point, my dad had left to go to college. My mom followed. They got married in London then, while he was at school, and then that's when I came along. But meanwhile, during kind of this of this turmoil, my grandparents left Beirut and came to the States. My grandfather's brother was already here in Boston. My grandfather came in and settled in New Jersey, where his daughter was. And because of that, after college, since my parents didn't really have anybody to come back to in Beirut, my mom's side had family still there. They decided to come to the States rather than go back to Lebanon. Or stay in London. So that was kind of the impetus of why we came to the U.S. at that point.
Wonderful. So most of your immediate family was in the U.S. at that time.
Yeah, most of my dad's side of the family were in the U.S. at that time. My mom's side of the family came over a few years after that. So at that point, almost our entire family on both sides were either in the New York, New Jersey area or in Canada.
Okay. Yeah. Well, wonderful. Yeah. I mean, obviously, at least relatively close, right? No one ended up on the West Coast.
Yeah, no, we always, so it's funny because like there's a big Armenian population in LA. So we always expected that at some point we would migrate out that way. But yeah, that never happened to us. Thankfully, I like it here. I like the seasons. Other than fire and mud that they have on the West Coast, we have snow and rain.
Even though we might complain about the seasons when we're in that season, but it just kind of does have that variety.
Yep. Yeah, so that's how we ended up here. And it's funny because like Armenians, my grandfather was a tailor. Most of our families were like in the we had family in the rug business and this and that. Armenians tend to be like they were traditionally like they become mechanics or jewelers. That's kind of like the stereotype. We have so many computer guys, and on my side of the family, especially on my dad's side, my dad's brother, his first cousin, myself, 2 of my cousins. Like we like kind of like it changed the trajectory of like where our family was going. But yeah, so
very interesting.
Yeah,
no doubt. And then you have children of your own, correct?
I do.
And how many?
4 boys.
4 boys?
4 boys. Yeah.
And what I guess in their life and education, where are they headed? Are they following dad's footsteps in the technology world, or are they kind of go be a tailor?
Some of them are, yeah. Some of them are. One is firmly he's working for IT in an IT role at an investment firm. Another is working as a software engineer in an investment firm. The third is a mechanical engineer, so not quite, but still in the engineering field. And my youngest is currently studying financial technology in college. So I would say definitely more technical, definitely technical types of jobs and careers. Not, probably other than my oldest, which is probably closestly aligned to what I've done. That's been the thing. They grew up in a house that this is what, Dad talked about and did. And, I started Triada in 2000. They grew up with it just like I did. We always had stuff in the house that they play with. There's a picture of my oldest at the office in Invesco. This giant compact computer sitting on my desk, typing away. When I was, building a computer at home, he has gotten his fingers in there. So cool. They've been around it for so long. And when I started Triada in 2008, my oldest was, 12. So it was like, so they were all young, right. And they saw us kind of build this up since then.
And is that, I guess, for you, is that the kind of path that you would hope for your children, or is that you'd hope for other things for them?
So my wife came from a family of business owners. I came from a family of business owners. My dad was a freelance computer consultant since we came to the country, and he's been there since. He still works. My dad still works for an investment firm as a COBOL programmer, believe it or not. And my mom was a business owner too. So we always, I didn't know that would have been, business ownership would have been in my path, but it kind of naturally became that way. And my wife and I both knew that, that's kind of like there's a couple ways to be successful in America. And it's really through ownership, whether that's ownership of homes or it's ownership of businesses, whether that's through, say, stock market or direct ownership of small businesses. We felt that was our path. So take the skill that you have and build a business around it. With the idea that because to potentially turn something into multi-generational, that whether it becomes that or not, we didn't want to necessarily say, hey, you have to join the family business. But that we, we're not like the Corleones that way, but we wanted to give them the opportunity that if they wanted to step into the family business, they could. Or if they wanted to, if at the end of my years, this asset became something that they could turn around and sell and do something with that they can build off of, that would also be okay. So those are the things that we wanted to build, something that actually had that kind of longevity, as opposed to, and I'm not knocking it. If I continued down the corporate ladder, one, I probably would have had better income along the way. But, when you leave, other than what you've socked away for your retirement, that's all you have. Right. And that's that was the, part of that is like, all right, so I'm giving up that maybe some of the salary, but I'm gaining a certain amount of freedom, and be building some sort of asset that can have some value at the end of the day.
Sure. I would say we could go into those few statements quite deep, actually. I don't know we'll touch on that at the moment, but yeah, just thinking about those things going, yes, I understand. We all can, as business owners, consider to go, hey, like maybe I'd be farther ahead if I would have stuck with a corporate job or whatever, right? Like going,
sure.
There's a little bit of a gamble there. Obviously, being an entrepreneur is not I say for the faint of heart. There's risks involved, and those we know that we choose and take those. And I know that myself, I often reflect and go, wow, was that the right thing? once again, same mentality. You're building this way.
Certainly.
Like to believe you're creating this asset, right? Building the business, building it up, and someday, you make that exit. So
yeah, you have your days.
Yes.
Certainly, and I've had my days thinking of like what to do with what we're planning on, and we decided to, looking back now, it's at some point you kind of have like a point of no return, right? So you're saying like, all right, do I still have? My wife and I were talking about this the other day. If the boys took over and you stepped away, what would you do? And could you go and get a job? And I'm like, maybe. I don't know. Like, there's some places that probably would hire me, like within our own kind of world. But that corporate leadership or that corporate job, that I don't know if that door is still open to us. We probably have some marketable skills that we could bring to the table for that kind of place. But if somebody was trying to like hire me as like a high-end engineer or practitioner in an enterprise, like I've been out of the enterprise world for almost 20 years. So that's a harder sell, I think, when you're looking at it. But maybe, who knows?
Maybe I kind of believe that. I don't know that. Yeah. I could be hired. I don't know. I think I'm past that phase, right? Like going, I know how to do something else. I don't think I would get there, right? Like it just, unless it's saying, welcome to Walmart. I don't know that there's much else that I, they're like, nope. But once again, we've been at this long enough that I truly believe that, I wouldn't be a good employee at that point anymore. It's just,
and I'm not, I would say that, but I also think that if somebody was to look at us at that point, that's probably the kind of person that they want. They probably want the person that is not going to be, quote unquote, a good employee. They're going to be one that's going to say, you're like, I guess I look back and maybe this is a bad example.
Bring it.
When, I'm going to, because I'm kind of a political junkie, I'll use a political example.
Go right ahead.
When George W. Bush was about to run for president, he was looked at as kind of like this young guy that made a lot of mistakes in his youth. He had his issues with substances and what have you. And because of that, they thought that we didn't have that kind of like foundation. And for better or for worse, that's why he brought on Dick Cheney. They used the word gravitas a lot. I just remember that word kept being said over and over again when he was running. And that's what he brought to the table. Right. So, and I think folks like us, the graybeards of the world, there's even a place for us there when, maybe in an advisory capacity, whatever it is, that when the young guys are, and we know technology is partly a young man's game, that as these guys start up, I wish I had that kind of person that I could have leveraged off of. Lord knows when I started in 2008, I had the exposure of my parents as business owners, but not really in the sense that like I was in their books and understood kind of how money flowed through the business. And certainly the money flowing through a consulting business that was basically, whatever came in is what went into your pocket, versus my mom's business, which was a hair salon, where the money flowing through a hair salon completely different than what we do. And so, with very basic financial knowledge that I gained when I, went for my MBA while I was in corporate, that was basically what I went on, and I learned business kind of that way. And probably if I had that kind of mentor, advisor, something like that at that time, I probably would have been further along quicker than I was. I don't know how you feel about that, but I think
now you made me think about that. Yeah, I think in the sense that you're right. I think they bring value to the table with that alone, and shortcut. Because as we talk about, even with, I've got some coaches in my life, and there's a reason for that, right? Now, and do I have things that are broken that need fixed? But there's also things that they can provide me that I don't have to learn the hard way, right? It takes time.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about the when we started out our companies, they say it's like youth, right? Youth is like wasted on the young. When you're young and you're a new business owner, you can't afford to have all of these coaches and folks. So you kind of have to muddle through it for a while until you can get some traction. Then you can afford the coaches to take you to the next level. And I think my mistake was waiting too long for that to happen before I can. Like, I would expose myself to pundits and groups and things like that. But I don't think I exposed myself to really good, solid one-on-one coaching until much, much later in my business than I should have.
Yeah, no, and so for you, and since we kind of went there with the coaching aspect and introducing that and introducing people that been there, done that, and give outside views and opinions, what today do you think has made the biggest impact for you? And what element were you, as far as what were you lacking that you feel that an individual coming in a coaching role has helped you with the most?
So I'm gonna actually take that in a different direction. Okay. What happened was which I have a tendency to do. I made the pendulum swing too far.
Okay.
And I had too many of these voices in my ear at one point. And so because of that, I think we went from not really knowing what to do to a whole bunch of people telling what we should be doing, but not being able to focus on any one of those or any one tactic. And it took me a while to build my own filter to say, all right, I still like the concept of having all of these different concepts and ideas, but I'm going to pick one, the parts that resonate with me and move with it. I don't know if that was a great idea, but at least allowed me to kind of quiet the noise in my head a little bit until I can narrow it. And I'm still on that process. Okay. That journey still hasn't finished, and narrowing the voices in my head. And I think finally where the biggest impact, wherever I made my biggest impact in my company along the way, has always been through I think peers, but guided peers. Okay. So the peer relationship, but with some additional structure and guidance, where I think just sitting in a room with a bunch of peers wasn't cutting it. But when we added some structure and around that, that definitely did.
Hi, I'm Marc Thomas, founder and CEO of Current Tech Solutions and Cyber Guardians. If you or someone you know could benefit from our cutting-edge IT and cybersecurity services, we'd love to help. Our expertise in securing your business with AI precision ensures that you're protected and empowered to thrive. Reach out to us today to learn how we can secure and elevate your business.